Parsha-Yisro, February 3rd, 2021. The topic is destroying and creating. The Torah tells us in Devarim, chapter 4, Pasuk 11, Vatikruvun vatamdun tachas ahar. And you came near and stood under the mountain. V'ahar bo'er ba'esh. And the mountain was burning with fire. Ad leva shamayim, until the heart of heaven. Choshech anan v'arafel, with darkness, cloud, and thick darkness. So the emphasis here is bo'er ba'esh. The mountain was burning with fire ad lev hashamayim. What is fire? Fire has a dual quality. It is both constructive and destructive at the same time. On the one hand, fire gives light, it gives warmth, it's a catalyst for technological progress. On the other hand, it destroys and consumes everything in its path. There was something significant then as to why the Torah was given on Har Sinai with fire. Why was the Torah given with a destructive and a constructive power simultaneously? The Torah tells us in Devarim, chapter 5, Pasuk 20, Es ha'devarim ha'ele diber Hashem el kol kehalchem bahar mitoch ha'esh. These words Hashem spoke unto the assembly in the mountain out of the midst of the fire. Hashem spoke out of the midst of the fire. The fire of the cloud of thick darkness. There was fire, there was cloud, and there was thick darkness. Kol gadol v'lo yasaf, a great sound that did not end. Vayichtavim al shnei luchos avanim, and through the fire, God wrote the words on the luchos through fire. Vayitneim Eli, and He gave them to me. Moshe says, Vatomru, Hin harani Hashem Elokeinu es kvodo. Hashem showed us His glory as Gadlo, His greatness as Koloi. Shamana, we heard His voice. Mitoch ha'esh, from the midst of the fire. Hayom hazera'inu ki dabar Elokim es Adam v'chai. From here we see that God speaks to man, and yet man still lives. David HaMelech said in Tehillim, chapter 29, Pasuk 7, Kol Hashem chotzev lahavos esh. The voice of Hashem hews out flames of fire. Tehillim, chapter 29, Pasuk 7. Rashi explains what is hews out, H, chotzev lahavos esh. Chotzev lahavos esh shahaya hadibor shel aseras hadibros yotzei belahavos esh mipiv v'nechkak al haluchos kitavnisam. The utterance of the 10 statements, Aderas Dibros, is not 10 commandments. Dibros, diber, 10 speakings, 10 statements, 10 categories. The utterance of Hashem saying in these 10 statements, Dibros, lidaber, emanated from Kiviyachol Hashem's mouth with a flame of fire, says Rashi. And that flame of fire took words and engraved them on the tablets according to their form. What does it mean the Torah was given with fire? It means the destructive power of fire means that the Torah was given and it burned up any other so-called reality. The Torah burned up any other reality. This is the dimension of the Torah being given on Chorev. Har Chorev, the mountain of Churban, destruction. Churban came to the world, says the Gemara. Why Churban? Because it destroyed any other possibility of anything else existing except for Torah. It also was a bris esh, a covenant of fire, a creation of fire, a creation of positivity. It warmed, it uplifted, it was a catalyst for growth. This duality of the Torah being given as a covenant of fire and creativity indicates that it is an all-encompassing relationship between Hashem and the Jewish people. It burns up everything in its path, and yet it requires us to be on fire in connection to Hashem. It is therefore a bris eish, a covenant of fire of closeness between Hashem and the Jewish people. At the same time, that very covenant makes demands upon us that all other relationships must be consumed. All other relationships must be destroyed and set aside. To make a unique one-way connection to Hashem means that I'm connected to Kodesh Baruch Hu. The fire of Torah creates the warmth of relationship between us and Hashem, and simultaneously burns up all other purported relationships. This and only this relationship and the fire of this closeness burns up everything else. Therefore, must be in the Torah's fire, there must be a relationship of connection and a relationship of destruction of all other possibilities of any other type of relationship. The Sifri teaches that when Hashem was about to give the Torah to the Jewish people, the nations of the world heard the great sounds, Hakol Gadol V'lo Yasaf, the great sound that never ended, coming from Sinai, and became afraid. And they turned to Bilam, the prophet, their prophet. And they said to him, we fear that Hashem is about to destroy the world. The sounds coming from Sinai. And Bilam answered that God promised he would never again destroy the world, as he said, and the waters shall no more become a flood to destroy all flesh, in Bereshis, chapter 9, pasuk 15. And they said, therefore, then what are the sounds that we hear? Bilam answered, Hashem oz le'amo yitain. Hashem yivarech es amo v'shalom. The Lord will give strength to his people, and there is no strength other than Torah. As it says, with Hashem is strength and sound wisdom in Eov, chapter 12, pasuk 16. If so, said the nations when they came to Bilam, may Hashem bless his nation with peace. Hashem yavarech es amo v'shalom. The nations blessed us. That it wasn't a destruction with sounds of great clamor, but at the same time it is a sound of connection to the Jewish people. The Torah, therefore, like fire, warms, lights the way for us, and promotes progress in the world. It brings shalom, peace and connection. It brings shlemus to us. It has warmth. At the same time, it has a contrary force, so all-consuming that it demands exclusive loyalty to Hashem, which consumes and burns up all other allegiances. So this Torah given with fire is a duality: warmth, positivity, connection, and then destroying all other possibilities. As we say in Aleinu, Efes Zulaso, there is nothing but Hashem. Says Rav Moshe Marevi, Efes Zulaso means there is nothing other possible without him. Nothing is possible. It's not that nothing else exists. Rather, nothing else is possible to exist. Nothing else possibly exists without Hashem. Efes Zulaso. What can we learn from this ourselves? How can we apply this idea of fire, of closest to Hashem, and then wiping out all other allegiances and distractions? How can we apply that and learn something for ourselves in our lives? The intent of Torah being given in fire teaches us that the Torah is a Eitz Chaim, a living tree. It is so all-consuming. It is an all-consuming pathway of living. Not a religion, but a way to live, a way to think, a way to be, a way to relate to other people. It's a pathway of fire that warms everything. And it must reach the level, as we say in Mariv, Ki heim chayenu v'orech yamenu uvehem nehege yomam v'layla. The Torah is our life and the length of our days, and about them we meditate day and night. The Torah is our living tree, our living pathway. And therefore, what can we learn from this? We have to make the Torah a pathway of living. We don't only learn Torah, we have to live the Torah pathway. Think Torah. Think Torah means thinking with God consciousness, that Hashem is guiding us every day. When you live with God consciousness, that Hashem is guiding you, that if something doesn't go your way, you say, Baruch Hashem. Hashem is not rejecting me. He is redirecting me. If you live with a Torah hashkafa, that nothing else exists, and Hashem wants this to happen, He guides me toward this, and it doesn't happen, then He's not rejecting me. I don't get upset. I don't lose it. I don't get anxious or upset or go into a rage. Why is this happening to me? If I'm at a traffic jam, for example, I get upset. Hashem wants me to take a break. Hashem wants me to listen to a shir. Hashem wants me to calm down, take a little respite. It's a blessing. Hashem is not rejecting me by putting me into a traffic jam, even if it means missing a particular appointment. It means He is redirecting me to think, to slow down, to calm down. And we have to have that kind of God consciousness that Hashem is directing our lives. This is the single-minded dedication, concentration, and mindfulness required of a Ben Torah and a Bas Torah, a son of Torah and a daughter of Torah. When we illuminate our lives and warm ourselves only by the pathway of Torah thinking, Torah hashkafa, it enhances our lives. It gives us warmth. Because hashkafa means divine providence, means the Shekhinah. Divine providence, the Shekhinah means God is guiding us in everything we do. Therefore, that pathway I'm walking is guided by Hashem. And the more I have God consciousness, the more God will show me hashkafa pratis. There's no need for Hashem to hide His hand if we reveal that in our own hearts and our minds. If we reveal that, we say, everything is hashkafa, then Hashem does not hold back His revealing of His hand to us because we have discovered it ourselves. So the more we see Hashem's hand in our lives, hashkafa, want to see it, walking with Hashem's ways, walking with Hashem's guidance every day, the more He'll reveal divine providence to us. So our mindset in our living, making a living, raising our children, going through our week, is that we're guided by the Torah way of thinking, the Torah way of living, not just learning Torah, but living Torah. How do we see this in the Aseret Dibros? Where do we see this in the 10 statements? There is a secret code I want to share with you. A secret, amazing code in the Torah itself, in the 10 Dibros, that's referred to by Rashi and Shir HaShirim. Rashi and Shir HaShirim, in the 4th Perek Daled, Pasuk Hey, says, Shnei Shadaich Kishnei Afarim Te'omei Tzivya Haroim Bashoshanim. What does Rashi say about this number 2? Shnei. Says Rashi, an unbelievable Rashi. And I want you to, please, if you can, open it up. Get a Shir HaShirim, not right now perhaps, but later. Show it to your family on Shabbos. Ask your husband to read it, to learn it together, or learn it yourself. Listen to this Rashi. What is this idea of a duality? The duality of 2 tablets. 2. The first set of tablets, the first side is between man and God. And the second side is between man and man. Says Rashi the following. Shnei Shadaich al Shem Luchos. The Luchos are compared to 2 items. V'chamisha dibros al zeh, V'chamisha alzu. 5 statements are on this tablet and 5 on this tablet, a duality, 2 tablets. Mechavnim dibur keneged dibur. That each dibra, number 1 is opposite number 6, number 2 is opposite number 7, 3 is opposite 8, 4, 9, and 5, 10. Which means there is a duality and there is a connection between 1 and 6, 2 and 7, 3 and 8, and so on. That really there is a philosophical underpinning and connection between the first Dibra and the 6th Dibra. That the man and man relationship of Anochi Hashem Elokecha, I am God, carries over into our lives today as lo tirtzach, thou shalt not murder. What is the connection? Says Rashi. Anochi keneged lo tirtzach. Anochi, I am God, is opposite the man and man relationship of thou shalt not murder. Says Rashi, why? Sheharotzeach mimait es hadmus shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There's something called demus Elokim, the image of God. When we murder somebody else, we are limiting, diminishing, destroying the image of God in the world which resides in that person. So if you have an acknowledgement, a God consciousness, that God is the creator and he created each of us, then we apply that in our lives, in the man-man relationship, in the woman-woman relationship, in the fellow man relationships by saying, I will not destroy not the physical being of my neighbor, nor the spiritual or emotional being of my neighbor. I will not speak lashon hara. I will not destroy their dignity. Destroying that dignity is murdering them, is destroying and assassinating their character. So the man-God relationship in the first set of Dibros of man and God, number 1, is applied and lived between man and man by being respectful of the Tzelem Elokim in each other. So when we see each other, look inside their eyes. Look in the eyes of a person, in particular the eyes of your family members, and see the Tzelem Elokim in them. See the godliness, see the Demus Elokim, and see the good in them. This past Sunday, my Rebbe and mentor, Rabbi Avram Yishaya Tursky, Zecher Tzaddik Livracha, was nifter. And he stood for the concept of the Tzelem Elokim in man, in the image of God in man, in the self-esteem and the value of each person. And the way, and I visited him in his home in Yerushalayim in June 2019. We did a website together. I wrote the foreword for one of his foreign 10 steps to being the best. He wrote the foreword in all of my Sfarim, most of my Sfarim. I advised with him. I was close with him, Baruch Hashem. We did conferences together. I went into conferences in London, the conferences in Teaneck, New Jersey. They're videoed. You can find them on YouTube. And he said that our job as parents and as individuals is to see the godliness in each other. And when we see positivity, and we bring positivity into the world by seeing positives in our spouse, in our children, in our neighbor, in our friend, in our sibling, then we are bringing Tzelem Elokim into the world. And we need to be touched by the life of Rav Twersky and learn from his legacy to look for the good in each other, to look for the good in each other, to look for the good in your spouse, to compliment them every single day, to give a compliment to your spouse every single day. And you can take a compliment from the Wheel of Strengths. The Wheel of Strengths, which I've taught many times, has 6 dimensions to it. Intellectual strengths, social skills, midos, ruchniya spirituality, contribution to family, and personal growth. Pick one every day. I saw that you used your mind beautifully today. I saw that you were very kind to your neighbor today. I saw that you showed your midos of chesed today. That's midos. I saw that you really davened with kavanah today. I saw that you really contributed to the family. You helped clear the table today. See that you're growing because you're not speaking negatively. Go through that wheel of strengths and see something good about your neighbor, your husband, your wife, your friend, sibling, parent, child, grandchild. Look for the good. See the greatness, the gadlus ha'adam in each other. And that's the message of my Rabbi Tursky. The second Dibra, lo yelecha, have no other gods before me, is opposite lo tinaf, do not commit adultery. Says Rashi, shehazoyne achar avodah zara, derech isha hamina efes tachas isha tikach et zarim. A person who is worshiping avodah zara is compared in this world, the man-God relationship. If we distort that relationship and we serve avodah zara, chas v'shalom, that's comparable to us being adulterous about someone else's spouse. So the common denominator between number 2 and number 7, Dibra number 2 of do not have any other gods, and number 7, do not commit adultery, is loyalty. Loyalty to Hashem and loyalty to your spouse. Commitment to Hashem and commitment to your spouse. The third Dibra, says Rashi, lo sisa, do not take God's name in vain. Keneged lo signov, opposite number 8, which is thou shalt not kidnap. Shad goinev soifoi lishava l'shaker. Do not take God's name in vain, or do not swear falsely in God's name, because if a person steals, kidnaps, then they'll end up being in court and lying and swearing falsely. So the relationship between man and God, in terms of respecting God's name, his presence, his Shekhinah in the world, is applied in real life, in our human terms, by being respectful in court and by telling the truth, by speaking respectfully, by speaking with God's truth, by respecting God's name, Kaviyachol. We apply that in our lives by respecting the truth in our interpersonal relationships. Number 4, says Rashi, Zachor es Yom HaShabbos lekadsho, honoring Shabbos, keneged lo sana bere'echa ad eid shacher. The fourth Dibra, man and God keeping Shabbos, recognizing God as the creator, is opposite, do not bear false witness. Zachor keneged lo sana. Shehamechalel es haShabbos, says Rashi, the person who violates Shabbos, me'id sheker biboroi. A person who doesn't keep Shabbos is testifying falsely about the Creator. Loimar shelo Shabbos b'Shabbos Breishis. If we don't stop creative work on Shabbos, our creative acts of mastery over the world on Shabbos, then we are testifying and saying that God did not stop creative work on the Ma'aseh Breishis, in the creation of the world. When we keep Shabbos, we are testifying. That's why Shabbos, number 4, is opposite number 9. Do not bear false witness, because a person who keeps Shabbos is a proper witness. And in halacha, a person cannot be an aid, a person cannot be a witness in Beis Din unless they keep Shabbos. A Shomer Shabbos is the criterion for a person being a valid witness. If a person is not a Shomer Shabbos, they cannot be a witness in a court of law. Because if you're not testifying that God is the creator by keeping Shabbos, then how could you be trustworthy to testify correctly with your fellow man? So when we keep Shabbos, we walk to shul, we sing Zmiros, we learn Torah, we are doing the act of edus, of testimony, and feel like you're an aid. So we stand for Vayichulu, because we're giving edus. And the fifth adibra, says Rashi, honor your parents. Keneged lo sachmod is opposite the 10th dibra, which is you shall not be jealous. She'achomed sofo leholid ben shamak le'oisoi umechabed le'mi she'eno aviv. A person who is jealous, who covets other people's things, he's going to end up having a child that rebels against him and who honors someone who's not his father. Now, Rav Moshe says, to explain this, is that when we have recognition that what we have from our parents, our DNA, our values, our midos, our upbringing, our manners that we learn from our parents, that's exactly what we need to help develop ourselves. We can develop them. We can grow from there. We don't have to stay the same way. But the values, the basic foundation of values we receive from our parents is exactly what we need to fulfill our destiny, and we have to develop it and make it better and fulfill ourselves and actualize ourselves and achieve our potential by taking what our parents gave us. But my neighbor has exactly what he or she needs from Hashem. And therefore, it's not a question of I shouldn't be jealous. I don't have to be jealous. Why should I be jealous? They're given what they need. I'm given what I need. Now, in human terms, in ego terms, we see they have a nicer house than me. They have more money than me. They go on more vacations than me. That's what they need. If I transcend my ego, go beyond my ego, go to my soul state and realize in pure consciousness that whatever God gave me is exactly what I need to fulfill my destiny. And I look at them and I say, Baruch Hashem, you have what you need. Gewaldik, I'm happy for you. And so too, in simchas, when someone else has a simcha, we say, oh, Mazel Tov, very nice, very nice. My simcha, our simcha, oh, that's something special. But someone else's simcha, oh, very nice, very nice. Why? Our ego is a little bit jealous. Let's be really honest. We're happy for the person. We're happy for their simcha. But what about me? What about my daughter? What about my son? What about my simcha? What about why? Some part of our ego says, nice, but when's my turn? That's coming from our ego. So lo sachmo, do not be jealous, means not that you shouldn't be jealous. You don't have to be jealous. Why? You have exactly what you need. Hashem gave you through your parents the values, the midos, the DNA, the upbringing, the financial background, the education, what you need. You can develop it. You can make it better. You can make it stronger. You can make it flourish. But what you have is exactly what you need, and you don't have to be jealous because what they have is what they need. And when they have a simcha, I'm happy for them. Hashem, to see the godliness in my neighbor and to enjoy their simcha and to be happy for them is something we can learn for ourselves in our lives. And I think that there are many, many things that we can learn from COVID. Hashem is not rejecting us with COVID. He's redirecting us. He's asking for a different pathway, says Rav Reuven Lechter. He's not rejecting us. He's still looking for something else. He's looking for a different pathway. He's looking for a renewed pathway. We have to think of to ourselves, why is this happening? Why are we sent home? Why are we sent home to be with our families? We have to leave our institutions. We can't go to weddings as freely as we did before. We're being sent home. Only 15 people can go, 30 people can go, 50 people can go. Something is happening. Hashem wants something from us. He wants us to internalize, I believe. He wants us to go inside. He wants us to introspect and be happy with what we have, happy with who we are. To look at the Tzelem Elokim in ourselves, to look at the Tzelem Elokim in our spouse, in our children, in our neighbor. He wants something new. I do not purport to know what he wants. I'm just saying for myself, I have to introspect and look into my own heart and my own soul and say, Hashem wants something from me and from you and from all of us. And it's incumbent upon us to think about that, to reflect upon that. This isn't going away. There's now a new mutation, a Brazilian mutation, and a South African mutation, and a UK mutation. We're going to get vaccines. And Yirtzeh Hashem, all of us should be vaccinated. Rav Chaim says we should all be vaccinated. First vaccination, the second vaccination. And hopefully that will take and everyone will get herd immunity and we'll all be safe in Yirtzeh Hashem. We'll go back to relatively normal. But we can't go back to the way it was. We can't go back to the same way How so? We have to take the first Dibra and see the Tzelem Elokim in our neighbor. The second Dibra, we have to be loyal and committed to our spouse. The third Dibra, we have to take Hashem's name and place it where it belongs and value what Hashem has given us and accept it and value it. We have to put more effort into Shabbos, Zachor Hashem Shabbos, and be a better testifier. We have to keep Shabbos and be a better witness about the beauty of Shabbos. And number 5, we have to honor our parents and honor our parents' memories and apply that to our jealousies. Rise above our jealousies, rise above our ego and say, I want to transcend that and go to the truth and say, I have what I need. I'm happy for them. Less jealousy and more happiness for someone else and their simchas. So this is how we can apply to our lives. The Aseret Dibros is a living Torah. It's the only way. It's the only way to live. It's the chorev. It destroys all other kinds of pathways, isms, hippieism and communism and fascism and socialism and New Ageism. All the other isms are forms of Avodah Zarah. They're all destroyed. They're all nothing. The only truth is the Torah. The Torah's pathway is given to us by Hashem, the master and creator of the universe, the Boirei Umanhik. And it destroys all other pathways, but then creates this pathway, the pathway of connection with Hashem. And it works the other way. The more we connect with Hashem and the more we dedicate ourselves to the Aseret Dibros and apply them to our lives, of seeing the good in each other, of seeing positivity in our spouse, of not taking God's name in vain by speaking with Lashon Nekiah, Lashon Toiv, of keeping Shabbos in a more passionate way, and of being happy with other people's simchas. In this small way, we could take the Aseret Dibros and live them. And in that way, may Hashem make the Eish of Torah, the fire of Torah, burn brightly in ourselves. Live it. Let it inspire us. Let it warm us. Let it make us a connection of covenant, of bris Eish with Hashem. And the more we bring that bris Eish into our lives, nothing else counts. It's burned up. So actually, these dualities are not dual. They're not two. They're only one. The more we make the Torah into a bris Eish, and we dedicate ourselves to know that this is the pathway. This is how we can find fulfillment. This is how we can find the pathway of connection to Hashem and find connection to ourselves, our own Tzelem Elokim. Serving Hashem is finding our own Tzelem Elokim. In that fashion, nothing else counts. And in that fashion, if we bring more connection to Hashem, then there's chorev. No other pathway means anything. So therefore, that's the duality. Duality is really one thing. It's all one. The two Dibros are really one Dibra. It's one application. It's seeing Anochi Hashem Elokecha and applying that to all. That's one. It's not two Dibros, man and God and man and man. It's man and God is the same thing as man and man. It is not that there are two pathways of a first set of commandments and a second set of commandments, of man and God and man, a duality, a bris Eish and a covenant of chorev, of destruction of all negativity. It really is always one. It's all one. It's that Anochi Hashem Elokecha is seeing the good in your neighbor and your husband and your wife. Having no other gods means I'm living a commitment to my spouse and I dedicate and rededicate myself. Not taking God's name in vain means I put more emphasis on respecting other people's property. Lo signo. Keeping Shabbos means I apply that and I become a more passionate Eved Hashem on Shabbos. Honoring my parents and my parents' legacy and memory means I apply it more to be besimcha for what they have and be happy and pleasurable with what I have, but be besimcha, more besimcha in what my neighbor has. In this way, it's all one. There's one Torah, one pathway of Avodas Hashem. That's the bris Eish. The bris Eish is the same thing as the burning up of the chorev, of the burning up of negativity. That the more we have a bris Eish, the more we have a connection to Hashem, then we see clearly that that's how you live. Nothing else matters. Nothing else exists. You don't see anything else. You don't see negativity. The more positivity you put in your life, the more negativity dissipates automatically. The more good you do, the less ra there is, the less negativity. The more tov there is in the world, the less ra automatically. And that's what the Nesiva Shalom tells us. Sur meira va'asei tov. Avoid negativity and do good. Says Nesiva Shalom. Sur meira al yedei asei tov. How do you remove negativity? By doing good. Sur meira al yedei asei tov. The more good you do, the more automatically the negativity goes away. The more honoring Hashem is that you do, the more you're going to see the goodness in your neighbor, in your husband, your children. Yes, Hashem. Let's take the Musar, the message of personal growth from this week's Parsha. Let's read the Asher Dibros as if it's being given this Shabbos. The Torah is being given to us on Shabbos. We stand up and we receive the Torah on Shabbos morning. The Aron Kodesh is like Har Sinai, says Rav Moshe. The Baal Koreh is Moshe Rabbeinu. The two people, Gabayim, are like Yoshua and Miriam's son Hur, holding his hands up on two sides. And the person called to the Torah is you and I. We're reenacting the Kabbalah Torah on Har Sinai when we hear the Torah on Shabbos morning. When you get the Torah on our Shabbos morning, we are re-accepting the Torah. It's not an inyan of learning Torah, the laning, Kriyas Torah. It's an inyan of Kabbalah Torah. We have to be makabel the Torah on Shabbos, this Shabbos. It's being given again this Shabbos. As much as we accept it, that's how much it's going to be given. As much as we understand that the first 5 Dibros are parallel to the second Dibros and that they are living one, they're one living entity, it's one bris eish, then of course there's no other duality. There's no other existence, no other way to live. This is the only way. Let's experience the bris eish within ourselves. The bris eish that's coming down from the Shekhinah on Shabbos, this Shabbos. Let's experience it. Let's feel it. Let's live it. Let's breathe it. Let's get a greater sense of God consciousness. And that way, Mir Hashem, we ourselves become better of the Hashem.